We've got some fresh new young talent doing some things that I know you haven't heard before.
1, 2, 3, listen.
Welcome to Finances, your home for all things financial, investment, money and lifestyle. Hosted and curated by the very talented team of certified financial planners, Burke Britain Financial Partners. We're going back to back today. I had Ben in earlier. We've got a common theme. We're talking property today. Shay is back after catching COVID in Fiji. Is that right?
Might be COVID, might be the man flu.
Yeah, but did you get COVID on the plane on the way over, or did you?
Oh, I didn't test, so maybe, but don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I was sick.
Oh, you didn't test, so you don't know that it was COVID?
No.
Okay.
Well, I won't say it doesn't mean anything, because I didn't have to tick the box that I didn't have COVID on the way over or back, which I thought was a bit strange.
Just to show you've got a certificate?
No, there's none of that.
Yeah, okay.
So I don't think it mattered too much. But no, I was crook.
Yeah. And
now I've got the sniffles.
Still crook.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's in here at work. He's got appointments today, and I thought would spend maybe 10 minutes talking about something that's going on in your life at the moment, which is pretty relevant to a lot of the clients that you're talking to, and that is entering the property market for the first time. So you and Millie managed to secure your first home. Tell us a bit about the experience, what you're planning in the lead up to it, and maybe some of the challenges that you have experienced and maybe those that you're seeing with other people in a similar boat as you.
Yeah, so we've both been saving now for a little while. We'd actually been living with her mum and just helping with bills, so no rent or anything, so it helped us save
Happy
up.
days.
Paid for food, and my food bill's up there, so that was probably the main expense.
Yeah. I was reading an article yesterday about the deposits required for a first home in the capital cities, and just how I think that was based upon 10% plus duties in all the capital cities. I think Sydney was like $250,000, so the median house price, and 10% plus duties was $250,000. Melbourne was maybe close to 200, maybe 180, and then the other capital cities, I think, were, I think that the cheapest, I can't remember which was the cheapest city, but it was still something like $80,000 in for a 10% deposit plus duties and legals and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so finding out the information of how much it's actually going to cost us as well, because we didn't fall into that banner, being first home buyers.
So talk those people who are first home buyers. So let me take one step back. So as a general rule, when we're talking to clients about buying their first home, the holy grail is maybe you put a 20% deposit plus your stamp duty, so it's kind of 25%. Ideally, you find and you borrow the balance, and then you work back from that based upon what people have got in terms of savings, what other equity they've got, where they can get funds from, and
income as well. Yeah,
income. And whether or not they're a first home buyer. So maybe talk to the experience of being a first home buyer and what's available to people in your boat.
Yeah, so it was a little bit difficult actually just jumping online, even for myself. You look up the loan calculators, how much I'm able to receive as a loan, and it doesn't, you go, I'm not buying too much of a property with that going on, or at least not a house that I want to live in. But having gone through uni, and a couple of my friends have gone and done mortgage broking, having someone on your side that knows the ins and outs and you can quickly jump on the phone to or text makes it nice and easy.
So what you're saying there is that what you saw when you did a quick loan calculator, if you took that as gospel, was shit, there's no way we're going to be able to buy a property.
Yeah, no chance.
Okay, so what was the difference between the calculation that you did and when you'd actually talk to someone, a real human, about what you could afford?
So one of my friends, Ben, made it really clear and concise that with the properties that we were looking at, stamp duty was like not going to be there. Don't have to stress about that.
Yep, and why?
So you're going to test me, in the first home buyers grant, if you're buying between $750,000 property and $600,000, the stamp duty concessions come in and progressively or increase or decrease how much stamp duty you pay.
Yep.
If you buy something under $600,000, no stamp duty whatsoever. Me and Mill were pretty aware that we don't want to stress ourselves out, and the first home that we're going to buy is probably going to be a rental in a few years anyway.
Yep.
Or we're going to do some renos. So try not to stress ourselves out in terms of what we are going to extend ourselves in getting. and also not having to put down as large a deposit as well. So we only had to put down up to 5%, which was really helpful too.
So you want to explain that too? So in terms of why you only had to put down 5% on a, because this is not a build. You've got an existing place that you bought. Why only 5%?
So we could have put down more, but in chatting with our broker, he thought it makes more sense to actually take out a larger debt facility. And because we could have deposited more, what we can actually do is just sit it in the offset facility, saving us the interest anyway. But it allows us to do renos. It allows us to go and use the money for a holiday. It is our money for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
But
so was the 5% deposit? And this is the first time you and I have talked about it.
Yeah.
But was the 5% deposit what the bank allowed you, or was it part of the first home? Was there a concession?
I don't think we could have gone lower than 5.
Yep.
I believe if you get a guarantor, so mum or dad or whoever, you can actually go the whole way to maybe 1 or 0%. You can loan the full amount.
Yep.
We were able to and happy to just do 5% by ourselves, which was nice and easy.
Yep. How urgent did you feel the need to actually get into the property market? Did you have that sense of FOMO that the world was passing? Oh, you're pretty chilled, but
yeah, I'm not generally too worried with what other people are doing.
Yeah.
I was happy enough at Millie's mum's place, but we were pretty keen to go and start our own lives, and we had been looking around for homes. It's not like we were oblivious to it. Something popped up that we found interesting, went for a couple of walkthroughs and thought, why not? It fits what we want, fits what we can actually afford. So put down the offer and off we go.
How big a impact was, I was talking to Ben about this on the last episode, that sometimes you got to make some financial decisions, sometimes you got to make a lifestyle decision. How big an influence were they in the decision you made to buy a property for you and Mill? How big a decision was the sort of emotional side of things versus the financial side, and who wore what hat?
I probably wear the financial hat, so I think fair to say.
Yeah.
Running through with the broker, I knew what we could absolutely comfortably afford, and we just kind of set that as the limit. Like, don't even look at anything above and beyond. And then if we find a property under that suits our lifestyle, let's go. That's perfect. We know what we can afford. We know what sort of property we want. We want a little bit of grass. We want a couple bedrooms, so we can have people stay with us. And then if we do manage to find something in that, we know that we can accurately and happily just go, all right, that's ours.
One of the interesting things you said there, which is probably not everyone's experience, and you're a little bit biased because you're a financial advisor. Congratulations to you, mate.
Thank you.
We should have said that at the start, but you're now fully graduated and qualified after a number of years of study. So congratulations.
Thank you.
You're a little bit different, I think, than the general population in that you said a couple of things about you actually kind of lined your ducks up first, like you worked out what you could afford, what your cap of your property value was, and you probably, because you're a pretty objective guy, you were less inclined to be influenced by like a financial decision, like rolling up at an auction and thinking that you could just throw a bid in and then working out how you fund it later, which is obviously chaos.
It happens.
It definitely happens. And there's some instances where that might be the case, but I'd say it's after people have done a fair bit of homework on what they can afford, where they're going to get the resources from, where they're going to get the deposit from, where do they want to live. What were some of the other decisions that you guys had to think about, or you did think about, in buying a property? Like you mentioned a couple, hey, we might rent this out later. This might be something we reno. What are some of the things that you actually thought about, other things that you thought about that others maybe should as well?
Yeah, so whether or not you want to live in it for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 20 years, I'm not living in this property for 10 years. I don't think it's probably a forever home, but it's good to actually jump in and have some funds available to do some renovations and see if that's something that we enjoy.
Yep.
Obviously, have no idea whether we will enjoy it or not, and whether we want to buy then other properties that's something we'd like to do. So it's probably a bit of a taste test as well.
Did you think much about sort of capital value of the property, appreciation in the future, or was that less of a consideration than actually getting in and getting a taste for owning your own property?
Well, having gone through the first home buyers, I knew that it wouldn't be overly expensive for us to go and do it. It was just the deposit and then the ongoing loan repayments, which we knew we could afford. So there was no stamp duty or anything like that up front. So there was no money gone.
Yep.
I was pretty keen to just get the foot in and see what it looks like, but I was also aware that the block does have future value. So it's a corner block. It came with some townhouse plans for it.
So do you want to talk about that? Because that is also something that a lot of people don't think about. Again, you're quite unique in the sense that you've got an eye for considering those kinds of things. A lot of people don't have that foresight to think, actually, is this something, how could I improve the capital value of this property in the future? You obviously have thought about that.
So I had a look through, we got the plans for the build sent through to us. And it helps having two older brothers who are both carpenters and have their own businesses, makes it easy. And I just sent them through the plans and said, how much would it actually cost me to subdivide, get proper plans drawn up, put these houses in? They quickly came back with a number, and I just knew that was not going to happen. For how much I thought I'd be able to sell it afterwards. So it was nice to have those plans on hand.
So just talk. And I know you and I actually did talk about this at one point, I recall now. But in very simple terms, you went, okay, this is what the property is going to cost me. Here's how much I'd have to actually spend on it to divvy it up and put a couple of units on it. And here's what I'd likely get back on it. You did your maths in your Excel spreadsheet or in your head.
What does the property cost me now to buy? What would the subdivision and two townhouses cost to put on? How much does the debt cost?
Can I just pause you on that? So that information, sort of rough figure on what that would cost you, you got that from
my brothers.
Your brothers who were in the game.
How much the interest would actually be on the debt for that? Obviously, I wouldn't be paying out of pocket. So just seeing if I had to take out another $1 million worth of loan to actually buy those and put those townhouses down, how do I fund that at 6% per annum? Another $60,000 I have to find a year to actually. Well, that's holding cost. I don't see anything from it until these townhouses are up and sold. Can't quite fund that at the minute. And so how much of a headache that was going to be for how little profit we'd see from it, I just put it aside. Maybe there's a day where it comes up that's what we want to do. But at the minute, then it looked like just doing some simple renovations are probably going to put more bang for buck into that house a lot quicker and maybe of a similar value as well.
It's interesting, the themes that we talked about in the previous podcast were how important it is to early on in the piece do some due diligence on your options, like you've done, where you go, okay, I've done some loose numbers on that, I've talked to some people about it, actually I'm parking that option for now, but because you've done that work, you can actually pull that back out off the shelf at some point in the future when maybe the means are there, your borrowing capacity is there, maybe the cost of actually putting townhouses has changed. So it's so important. I mean, you think about people buying their first home, a lot of the time people are purely focused on an emotional decision, or I really want to buy my first home. Why? Because my
mum and dad's house.
Well, or because my friends are, and I think it's the right thing to do. Whereas if you've got an opportunity to talk to people and maybe step back a little bit, you can actually start to say, well, there's a few other things I need to consider.
And again, why was it this property? We're in Leopold, so it's a pretty good growing suburb. It's a pretty well built up spot. So we think, if we actually jumped out and wanted to rent this place out, someone's going to pick it up. If ever we want to go do some travel in a coming years and need to do something and have someone jump in our house, we feel we could probably do that pretty quickly. And also the amount that we actually took out in loan compared to how much we could have put down as a deposit gives us a lot of playing room to actually pick that up and put a deposit on another place as well if in future we want to go and buy what would be the family home or something like that in a couple of years.
I think it's a good story, or it's a good insight into people thinking about their first home. If you had to give someone who was, I know we can't give advice on a podcast, but if you had to, let's say hypothetically, you had to give advice to someone buying their first home, what are let's say the top three things, you can do more than three if you like. What are the top three things you'd tell them they should get in order before they actually go and buy their first home?
Definitely chat to a broker. Make sure you have a broker on hand, one that you either know and trust makes it really easy. Knowing what you can borrow and knowing probably what you want to borrow as well. So I could have borrowed less for this property, but in borrowing more, it actually brings on more opportunities down the track. So the other one's probably why you want to buy it and when you want to sell it. So what's the purpose of the property? Obviously, you're going to live in it for a point in time. You're going to live in it forever, for a year. You're going to rent it out after that. Are you going to get rid of it straight away? So it's probably why getting in, when are you getting out, is probably pretty pertinent to that.
Yeah,
as well.
The why with any investment is, what's the purpose? It's not.
Because this isn't just my home. It's not just a family home. It is an investment. I want it to grow. I want to make money and gains off of it in the future. So knowing that why we've purchased it and what it's going to provide for us is really key.
Yep. Last question around interest rates. Obviously, interest rates have been very topical. What part of the calculation did interest rates or interest rate movements have on your decisions around what you borrow or how you might be able to service that debt in the future?
Yeah, I was probably a little bit opposite to everyone for the last 18 months while rates were rising. Because I didn't have any debt, I was sitting there with my thumbs up going, perfect for me, because
my cash is accruing some interest.
It's getting interest, but also someone with debt who has a property might be looking to sell soon. And so that's probably a good time for me to go and pick up a property that I think is worth more than what they're selling it for. Maybe we did that, maybe we didn't, but we've managed to go and get into a property that we can service. Obviously, as the rates go up, the amount we could loan starts to drop progressively, but we knew what sort of property we wanted. We knew what means we would roughly be able to get. So as those rates grew, we weren't too stressed about it. It just meant we'd continue to look for a property and know what that means for our debt repayments monthly, fortnightly.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's probably, mate. You got anything else to add before we let you go and recover from your man flu?
Yeah. I'd probably say make sure you chat to a mortgage broker first before you go and put down an offer, even before going and walking through properties. It's not a good feeling walking through a property and going, I wonder if we could buy it. It's much nicer walking through and saying, this could be mine.
Yeah.
If I wanted it, this is mine.
Yeah.
That's a better feeling.
I think that, again, I always refer back to previous podcasts, but that idea of having people in your corner to help you with, and you mentioned two things that there's three things you're very fortunate with. Number one, you're financially minded. Number two, you've got friends in the industry, particularly in the broking world. Number three, you've got brothers who are in the property world already. So you're able to sort of collate that info. Not everyone is that fortunate. So anyone out there listening, I suppose we'd encourage them to get advice, wherever that advice is. Seek advice, do some due diligence, and make sure you make good decisions when you're buying your first home, because it's not an insignificant investment.
Yeah, it's going to be your biggest first investment, I'd suggest.
Yeah. You're
not making many investments that big,
early. You did tell me about your first investment on your very first podcast. It was, what did you buy?
Waddle Health
How'd they
Australia. Well, my old man actually told me to pick some up, and I said, that's fine. I don't know how to buy shares. So I said, I think I had $5,000. And I was like, Dad, if you can go and invest that for me, that's good. He said, no, you get stuffed. They went through the roof.
Yeah, and
then I go, oh, perfect. In we go on a hop. I think I only put a couple $100 in there, and it went straight through the floor. And then Dad actually bought me some for a Christmas gift. He said, oh, what goes down must come up again, I suppose. I think I've got maybe 25 cents worth of them, so I can't even sell them. So
it is funny that even some of those bad experience, not that it wasn't a hugely consequential experience, it gives you a bit of insight into what markets do.
Yeah.
And you do apply some of those same principles. Even when you talked about property, you're thinking, actually rates are going up, that'll put a bit of pressure on property potentially. And we've sort of seen that with the plateau of property. So you live and learn. You learn from your experiences, good, bad or otherwise. Yeah,
that's why you invest small amounts regularly, not putting lump sums in and then see what the market does.
Yeah. All right, mate. Thanks again. We'll see you in a future episode.
Done.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you're keen to understand more about how financial advice could benefit you, follow us on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter at Burke Britain FP, or Google Burke Britain Financial Partners. Check out our client reviews, testimonials, and make a time to meet one of our certified financial planners by clicking Book Now on our website. Thanks for listening.
Any information contained in this podcast is of a general nature only. No account was taken as to the objectives, financial situation, or needs of any particular person. Therefore, before making any decision, listeners should consider the appropriateness of any information with regard to their particular objective, financial situation, needs, and seek independent advice from a licensed professional specific to their circumstances.
All right, hit it.
That translates to don't be a moron and act on what some random person says on a podcast. Take personal responsibility. Do your homework. Ask questions and speak to an actual human that knows what they're talking about before you do anything. PP Financial Solutions Proprietary Limited, trading as Burke Britain Financial Partners, are authorised representatives of AMP Financial Planning Limited, AFS, licence number 232706.